Thanks again for joining us. As each week, we explore a topic that helps us to personally evolve, gain some spiritual insights, and transform our lives. This is a space where we feel ancient wisdom can meet modern life. I'm Antonia Dax, and my co host Sung and I are here to share and question and laugh and learn together and explore whatever topics seem appropriate. And we're inviting you to join us. And we're so glad that you're with us on our journey. And hopefully, that, like us, you'll start to see your life and your world in a whole new way. So, today, we have a very broad topic, which is choice. And we haven't really planned much about what we're going to talk about today, which seems appropriate somehow if we're talking about choice, because we get to choose whatever we want to talk about as it relates to choice. And, I thought this topic, Sung, I thought it was a good one because I think we've mentioned choice in every one of our episodes so far.
Exactly. Especially last episode, I think we even had a debate
Yeah,
to choice and
yeah,
action. So my
with
point of
actions.
view
Yeah.
is choices include choice of action. But I think you have that differentiation between choice being like an internal process and action being a
Yeah, being external. Yeah, we looked at it from all these different angles last time. Yeah. I have had like so many people and things in my own life happening that were revolving around choice. I've had clients who like have these choices to make and they don't know how to make the choices,
Mhm.
right? And recognizing things like, so we could talk about that, right? Like what is a choice and how do we make choices? And things like when we think we don't have a choice. I remember times in my life where I was like, somebody would say, well, just do something different, make a different choice. I'm like, I can't, there's no choice, right? And so that's something we could look at too. Like, what is choice and how do we recognize that we have it? Um, I don't know. What do we do if we think we made the wrong choice? Or
Mm.
are we choosing, how are we choosing? Are we choosing from our own truth or from some other, thing that's guiding us or something? I don't know. There's a lot that we can look at today.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I would say for me, choices or making the best choices are the most important thing in the world, in this journey of life. Um, I don't think there is a bad choice per se.
Mm,
Every choice will lead to a consequence that will teach you something.
mm,
I think the more you learn from the consequences, the more you understand consciously what are some of the choices that's more aligned with your true nature. And then
ah,
you become more aware. When you become more aware, you make better choices. That's in alignment. I think that's how.
that's a lot. That's a lot what you just said there. Oh,
Yeah,
how
I
do
just
you
summarize how to crack this journey of being human.
yeah, because this is like what I don't know, maybe you have, but growing up here in the US, it was always like you have to learn from your lessons. You have to learn from your mistakes,
Yeah.
right? You have to you take a lesson out of what you just did. But it was very hard for me growing up. I tried. I was like, what do I learn from this? But I think I think that especially as a child, you don't necessarily always have the guidance. Like if your parents are good at that, like you're saying, helping you see what are you supposed to learn, then maybe you can be better at that and you can become more aware of your choices and the consequences. But if you don't, I think it can be difficult to say, what was I supposed to learn? What am I looking at here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And you see the consequences, but you can't necessarily see the
Action.
connections, how one led to the other.
Yeah. Um, that's why we grow older and we might make more mistakes and we start to see patterns, right? We learn that
Yeah, repeat the
why
same
why why
mistakes.
why do I do the same?
Yeah, yeah.
Why am I here again? And then you start to think, you start to make connecting dots and finally understand,
Mm,
oh yeah, maybe I should next time try something else. That's how we evolve.
yeah, that's a hard thing to do too.
Mhm.
I remember because, I think most of us anyways, we really try,
Mhm.
right? We try to make the right decision. Try to make the right choices and things still don't turn out right.
Mhm.
And if you like in my life, I had like that just repeated and repeated and repeated. I'm like, what else can I do?
Mhm.
I've tried everything. Right?
Yeah.
And and one day I said, well, I'm going to find the connections. I was a very analytical person,
Mhm.
and I used to analyze the hell out of everything.
Same
And
here.
it didn't serve me all that well, but that's a story for another day.
Mhm.
But one day I was like, I'm going to figure out what's the connection. Why have I, even though I've tried and done my best and given more than 100% and whatever, and it's still nothing works out, what
Mhm.
is the connection between all these things? And I realized that the only common denominator was me.
Mhm.
It was me.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, as they
Well,
say, you know?
I think truth always comes in different layers. I think that's why for me spirituality is always important. I know people sometimes don't want to talk about it, but we're just spiritual beings living a human life.
Yeah,
And sometimes if we only use our capacity to analyze without feeling it or without connecting to the higher truths, it makes things really difficult. At least
it
for me,
does.
I think I started to question, oh, there must be more to it. That's when I opened the door to my spiritual teacher, to my studying, and to my journey to make more conscious choice. And yeah, I mean, we can try to give analysis to the situation you're facing and try to find a common pattern. Um, but I encourage everyone to consider that there's always more. There's always
Yeah,
a layer.
yeah,
Um, I truly understand there are times when circumstances are out of your control, and especially when it comes to, let's say, relationships or social
hmm,
justice, because the consequence is not decided by your own action. It's also
right.
a consequence
Part of a greater
that
whole.
action
Yeah,
and where the society is at the moment.
yeah.
So, but still in those situations, you can still make a
A
choice
choice.
in response
Yes,
to whatever
yes.
results you're facing. I think the bigger problem when we say that, um, you know, we don't know what's the lesson to learn. I think the bigger pattern I see is in those moments we become so frustrated, we tend to avoid our responsibility of owning our choices.
Hmm.
So it becomes so hard. We want to, maybe either blame others, blame the circumstance, or just feel
Yeah,
helpless that, okay, I don't know how to get out of this.
yeah, yeah,
Um, it is very difficult, and there's no easy solution. But I think one thing I can tell for sure is no matter how hard the situation is, there is always a way to evolve from there. And the
yeah, yeah,
choices are
yeah,
100% in your hand to decide how you handle the situation.
absolutely. And I think that what you say is so applied to what I was saying when I finally realized that I was the common denominator, I was the only connecting link. I realized there had to be something more.
Hmm.
I wasn't on a spiritual journey at the time, not consciously, not aware of it at all,
Hmm.
though I was. But that's when I realized I have to look outside of what I had already been doing. There must be something more. Like you said, there must be something more. There's something
Yeah,
I've been missing.
yeah,
What is it?
yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
And that's when it all started to click. That's when I started to realize there was more to
Hmm.
me than I had been working with or allowing myself to be.
Hmm.
And that's when was able to start to see that I could start to make some choices um, that were more in service to my well-being.
Hmm.
Right. And like I say, it's a long journey and it's a process
Hmm.
for sure. And it can be very difficult when you have to start to admit to yourself that, okay, things aren't what they thought they were. I'm not who I thought I was. right? I have been making bad choices and I thought they were good choices, but now I have to just admit that
Hmm.
I was working with a limited deck, right? It was like I didn't have the full
Exactly.
uh, scope of things to work with. And I thought I did, but I didn't. Right? And once you start expanding your abilities and your vision of who you are, then you have more to work with. And that gives you better chance to make choices. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you know,
Absolutely.
I would like to talk just briefly maybe about this analysis thing because I think so much of our society is based on this like scientific research and all that, right? You have to like do the research and analyze everything and then look at all of the data and try to find the right best choice, right? And but there's also been a lot of research done on the fact that the more choices we have and the more input we get, the harder it is to make that choice in the end, to make the decision, because there's so many variables. And how can you choose? Like I have had a client of mine the past month or two has been really struggling with making a choice. And she keeps looking at all these different variables. What about this? Well, what about that? And in the end, it's like, well, you can just keep looking at those all through your entire life, and it's not going to help, right? You have to find something beyond that
Yeah.
that will help you to make the choice.
Yeah,
I had, I get,
that's what we
I
call
did,
analyze paralyze.
yeah, analysis paralysis. That's it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I had a teacher, I forget, it might have been Ram Dass, who said that, like, or I don't remember who it was. Um, that like you could go into business with somebody and you like do all your research and you choose the absolutely right person because they have all the right attributes and they have the whatever you need and you're ready to go, and then on the first day when you're coming together to start your business, he slips on a banana peel and he dies. Well, you couldn't have planned for that. You couldn't have guessed that possibility for your future, and the whole thing's out the window, right? So it's you can't just rely on this kind of analytic input.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got to be more than that, right?
absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think that's where um, intuition, gut feelings, and following your
Yes.
heart come into play. Um,
Yes.
because I think, human beings are essentially a intellectual centered, species, and we emphasize too much about mental capacity.
Mhm.
But there are many ways we can get close to the truth of a matter or a decision. For example, you have emotions that can also inform you the truth of something, and you also obviously you have your body. Sometimes your body can tell the truth too.
Mhm.
But in our modern society, we emphasize too much about analysis and this mental capacity
Yeah. Yeah.
to do logical reasoning, and
Yeah.
we lost our touch with some of our ability to use our emotional center and physical center to make
Hmm.
decisions.
Hmm.
Um,
And yeah,
I
I think
think
it's good to
eventually,
clarify.
let me finish this part. I
Hmm.
think eventually, I think of it as a dance between wanting assurance in the face of uncertainty, because future is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
predictable. It is
Yeah.
uncertain. There's always an uncertainty. Even if you have the best models, you collect all the inputs and you have
Exactly.
whatever
Yeah.
measurement of the highest level of accuracy you can think of, but future is always random and uncertain.
Yeah.
You just have to accept that. It's mathematically impossible to predict future.
Hmm.
Um, so so it's becoming a matter of how comfortable you are with uncertainty and how much preparation you need for you to prepare yourself to face the future uncertainty. um
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it is not easy.
Yeah. I think you bring up some good points because we are very logical in our approach to life,
Mhm,
right? It's all about we trust what we think.
mhm,
And we have so been focused on that we really have sort of stunted our ability to be intuitive
right.
and and that inner knowing that quiet inner knowing, I think most of us don't even know what that is. We're not even aware of how to access it or what it feels like or anything. But it is interesting because, the more they have studied about our nervous system and our energy fields and how the body works and all of that, the more we have learned that we do have sensory capabilities, right? Every cell in our body has sensory capabilities.
Yeah.
We're taking in information in every way possible, right? It's not just, it's all going up here eventually, right? But it also ends up in our guts. They have found there's a lot of the very same kinds of um, neurons um, and those kinds of cells that are in the brain are also in our guts.
Yeah.
And there's been research on like the vagus nerve as well, right? That's running up your spine, along your spine, and all that. That we have a gut instinct for a reason. We actually have the
Yeah.
ability to think and process information in our guts. It's not the same way as we think with our brain, but it's there.
Yeah. And you have to
Yeah.
understand, I think it is actually very important in the not just not just typical choices in daily life, but it's also very important. Let's say, for example, in business, in any
Oh yeah.
entrepreneurship, like
Absolutely.
if you only make decision based on what looks good on paper, um, you will be in big trouble because you are essentially, you know, tapping into the world of unknown, right? You need to, be able to, in a way, predict future using not
Yeah.
just the existing data, but something that's not there yet. So
Yeah. Or is
the
it there?
choices,
Or is it
your gut
there?
feeling. What is that?
I think it is there. It's just that we're not used to tapping into it. Like, I think that, all of the information, by the time it gets to our brains and our brain chooses what to pay attention to and to process it and bring something of what came in into our awareness, that takes time, right? And and emotions take even longer. So even though we're talking like, milliseconds or whatever, it's time. So we are consciously living in the past. So the future is happening. We're like the present is in the future, if that makes any sense. And what's happening, and what we're aware of what's happening is already in the past. We're behind it all. But there's a time lag
Mm-hmm.
between our awareness. I saw a really interesting TED talk on this once.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyways, so the future, what we perceive as the future is actually the now. It's happening. And we're picking up on all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just we haven't
Yeah,
been able to process it yet, right?
depends on, I guess, what kind of I guess tradition you're coming from. Like I've heard many people say that um time is not linear, obviously, and
Yeah.
sometimes we're not even talking about like a few seconds, like maybe even a few 100 years. That
Sure.
time,
If you want to get into like quantum physics and stuff, yeah,
yeah,
time is like a
things
theory. It's a
already
humanly
happened.
created thing, right?
But I think
Yeah.
I think I probably should rephrase myself. What I meant is not about predicting future. It's more about tapping into what's true. I think the most
Yeah.
important part is not to predict what happen in the future. The most important part is tapping what's true to
What's
you and
actually
your
happening.
soul,
Mm,
and humanity. So that's how I will see it. Sometimes future and past are not important. We all say present moment is the only moment that
yeah.
that exists and is real. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, we I think we we went off track slightly.
No, I don't know. I mean, I think it's all related, right?
Yeah.
We have to we have to look at our options. If we're making a choice, what are our options? And if we stick to only what we can logically reason, then we are like disconnecting from so much other stuff that's going on
Mhm.
that is more real than what our brains can actually
Mhm.
bring into our awareness.
Mhm.
But if we're not even considering that that's an option, then we don't have anything but our brains to go by, right?
exactly.
So I think it's important to talk about these other things.
Yeah, and obviously, the more work you do, the more open-minded you are, the more expensive is your awareness, and the more
Mhm.
expensive is your awareness, the more you're able to tap into this very subtle energies and
Yeah.
patterns that other people don't see easily.
Yeah. To recognize them and to trust them and to know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speaking of which, I know it's kind of a hot topic that, and we touched it a little bit 2 episodes ago about AI and human future. I know
Uh-huh.
there's a fear these days that people are worried their jobs are going to replaced by
Yeah.
AI.
I had
I don't
somebody talk
see,
bring that up today, one of my clients. Yeah.
yeah, I don't see like that. Yeah, I mean there will be some pain, but it will be temporary. For me,
Hmm.
I think AI at this point do not have consciousness, and that's
Yeah.
the fundamental difference between AI
Yeah.
and human brain. And and they can only summarize or synthesize what happened in the past, what's already been done.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
see it as a very powerful tool to allow us to free ourselves from things that's more summarizing or organizing in nature, but allow us to have the freedom to tap into what's unknown. How can we be more creative? Which is one of the first episode that we discussed. Um,
Yeah. You know, and
I think human
that's also like if
creativity
the
is.
AI is like a brain,
Mhm.
right? And if that's all it can do is this reasoning stuff based on the past,
Yeah,
it can't tap into, it doesn't have an intuition, right?
no,
It can't access all of the now moment that you were talking about.
and they don't have creativity. They have a
No
capacity
creativity.
to
Yeah.
generate something from the past. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we as human beings always have that potential to tap into something that's that's not there yet, and we're just in this physical world to bring that things that's not there yet into the world. So, which is
Hmm.
creativity.
This kind of makes me think about kind of moving on a little bit here to a slightly different angle
Mhm,
about like recognizing who we are
mhm,
and making decisions from a place that is based in more of a true self.
mhm,
So like I'm thinking about Jung's idea of the persona
mhm,
versus like the true self,
mhm,
because so much of us, I think we see ourselves as the persona, right? This person that others see us as, the person who we were told we were,
mhm.
and that we present to the world as who we are.
Right.
And that's like very ego, right? It's ego driven, it's fear driven, or what are people going to think of me? Um, and that is like a separate sort of sense of self, but it's not the true self. It's sort of like a mask, right? It's sort of this thing that we say, this is who I am. But behind all that is the true self.
Mhm,
And that's like the deeper truth. That's we somehow get lost in the persona and it can be hard to find our true selves.
mhm,
But those times that you do, they're like so meaningful and they're so wonderful. And I think if we can spend more time there and make our decisions and make our choices from that place,
mhm,
that I think we would be making better decisions
mhm,
about everything, right? That we would be more in alignment
mhm.
with what is really good for us rather
Absolutely.
than making decisions based on ego or on fear or, like I said, or like what people's perceptions of us
Mhm.
or what's expected of us or trying to please other people. So we get into people pleasing, right? That we're making decisions based on others and not on our true selves.
Yeah, that's a very meaningful topic for me. I would say the whole reason why I kind of decided to do more of the coaching work and
Uh-huh.
travel this, healing path. It's especially because of this, because I have been studying about the relationship between ego and true self for a long time. Um, and I've reached a point where I notice, wow, the world is so operated based on ego? What if I can contribute to people having that awareness of what's true about themselves versus what the fear is
Yeah.
telling them to do? That would be, my life's work. So the whole point of me
Hmm. Hmm.
following
Okay.
this path is related to this. I think, um, you know,
I think mine is too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
mine is too.
yeah, I definitely have a lot to say about this true self and the nature of it, based on my previous study. And if
Okay,
you're more
what
interested,
is your take on choice then in that regard? Make how we make choices.
mm, I think, as I said, there's no bad choices. You just learn from the consequence. And I think eventually this world only have, three, deciding principles. One is truth, and the other one is love, and the third one is action or energy or beauty of the world. Um, I think the
Mm,
more you make choices that's aligned to these fundamental elements of the universe, the more you're going to see results that's more aligned with where your heart desires. Let me expand a little bit about what I just said.
okay.
Um, my teacher always told us, um, truth is the highest good and love is the highest truth. When I talk about love, I'm talking about not just the typical romantic love. I'm talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
like a gentle force, a gravity that holds pieces together, holds human society together.
Mm,
Um, and when you can always remember the sense of love, always remember this ultimate truth in the universe, which is love,
yeah.
you will feel safe. You always feel safe. We know love. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear.
Fear. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you always feel safe, and no matter what happened, I'm ultimately safe. When you have that awareness in any kind of decision or circumstances you're facing, you are halfway there of making a good
Mm,
choice.
I agree.
And then
I agree.
when you have that love in any given moment, when you have that feeling of safety, you allow yourself to see the truth or have that awareness of all the parameters that's surrounding you around a particular situation. Um,
Mhm.
but in contrast, when you choose from fear, your mind is very narrowly focused on survival. You think, okay, for example, the only way I get out of this is I crash my opponent. There's no way
Yeah.
we can create a win-win situation. That's a
Yeah.
typical
Yeah.
fear-based decision making. But when you have that awareness of love, when you're aware that, oh yeah, there's so many opportunities we can build a collaboration together to create a
Hmm.
win-win situation,
Hmm.
you make better decisions.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, just
and
the
then,
way
and
the
then when
brain
you
works,
make
even.
decisions based on truth, you just make better choices. It's easy. I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
easy, but
Yeah.
it's hard
Yeah.
because so few people I know um that can mostly operate themselves from love instead of fear.
It's hard, isn't it?
See, I
But
think
when
that
we,
paradox the paradox of being a human is the truth is actually very simple.
yeah, I agree.
To
It
to
doesn't seem simple until you find
follow,
it, and then you go,
yeah, to
"Oh,
follow
that was so
through
simple."
is hard. To follow through
Yeah.
is hard. Truth is simple. Follow through is hard.
Yeah. Although that's true too. It can be.
Yeah.
I think what you were saying made me think too that when you're in fear,
Mhm.
your brain actually doesn't work fully. The reasoning center shut down, the frontal cortex
Mhm.
kind of shuts down, and you really can't see choices. You
Mhm.
can only see that fight, flight,
Mhm.
freeze, right? Um, because that whole um, the lizard brain kind of kicks in,
Yeah.
and so you really don't think you have other choices. And so living in fear it does limit our ability to choose and to choose well.
Mhm.
And this is why I think I know that, like, if you're living in anxiety, that's it. If you're living in depression, that's it. you can't see what I couldn't see in the past. Like I don't have a choice. What else can I do? It's because I couldn't see that because my brain wasn't working. It was literally the parts of the brain that allow you to think clearly and creatively and to have information cross over from one side to the other is shut down.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
it actually is, you're right when you think you don't have any options. There are options, is you are not able to see them.
Yeah.
So love, however, love is the flow of, like you say, it's everything, right? So it creates everything.
Yes.
And it's that natural flow. And in that flow, everything is available.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is working perfectly fine. You're taking in information as it's and you're interpreting it correctly, right? And so you have these options and you have these um, possibilities and potentials
Mm-hmm.
that you never could have seen otherwise if you're stuck in fear. So, if you're listening to this and you're stuck in fear and you're going, oh, I don't know I don't have options. Well, this may be why.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, it's possible to make that change. It is possible to make the change.
And
Um,
I will also add that if there's only one thing you can choose to believe, believe in love. It never fails.
yeah,
It truly.
yeah. And not romantic love, not in like sacrificial love, but
Mhm.
a true love.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
true love of everything that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I
when you are
agree.
in those
The love of
difficult
self. It
moments,
starts with the love of self, right?
yeah, when you are in those difficult moments of self-doubt, anxiety, depression, um, just trust that you're loved. Like that's
Yeah.
a magical medicine. And
Yeah.
at
It
the end
may
of the
take some
day,
time.
really, yes, only love will save us from, our own challenges. So
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Choices, and I have one more thing I wanted to say because this actually, okay, it's shifting gears again a little bit, but I had a client who's been going through some really difficult times for a while now. And she she asked me, well, she's like, I need to do something for myself. I need something for myself. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great, and what do you like to do? She said, well, I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah.
And so I told her about the things that I do and in my free time and for my enjoyment and whatever. And she was kind of like, oh, okay. She's like, I don't like any of those things. And well, you have to find what's right for you. So last week or about 2 weeks ago, I was thinking about how I just have been so busy lately. And like, there just isn't enough time to do everything I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I remembered my client who can't think of anything to do. And I thought, I have chosen all these things to do. I don't have to do any of them. And the truth is that that's true for all of us. It may not seem like it, but we have chosen at some level to do everything that we're doing, right? It may have been put upon us, but we accepted it, right? Or, I mean, unless under extreme circumstances, but for the most part, we always have a choice. And if nothing else, you have the choice of your attitude. And I realized that I was complaining about not having enough time to do all these things. This has been sitting around and I haven't gotten to it. When am I going to get to it? And oh my gosh, I started this project and I haven't finished it. And I signed up for another thing and I haven't even finished the one. Right. And I'm like, why am I complaining? Right. Why am I complaining when I have chosen these things and I can choose to let them go? I can choose not to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how grateful I am that I'm choosing things for
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that I have so many things in my life that I want to do. So it's the attitude, first of all, there's 2 points here is that we always have a choice, even if it's just a choice of our attitude. And the second one is that we do need to think about our attitude. What are we bringing to what we're doing? Right? Is it gratefulness or is it the sense of, I don't know, whatever, it's too much or it's bothersome or why or, right? I think that we have to be aware of our approach and our intention and our attitude about the choices that we make.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course, of course. But I think for everyone, I also want to emphasize that it is so important for you to remind yourself to feel safe, that you're
Mhm.
always safe. If you or you always have time, or what are the worst things that can happen? No, nothing.
Mhm.
Really. But we constantly get ourselves in those survival modes, and we felt that we're out of control of ourselves, of the circumstances. Um, yeah, if we can bring that awareness in that very moment of fear that you're always safe, it will help you through that.
Mhm.
It is
Mhm.
not easy, but it is through consistent practice of reminding yourself and basically rewire your brain in any opportunity of choice available. Then you can maybe you rewire your brain, you rewire your nervous system, and then staying
Yeah.
calm
Yeah.
and have that awareness of all the choices available. Although, so it's not easy.
Yeah. No. And it takes prioritizing. I think, it's really helpful to stop and say, what am I doing? What have I chosen to do? And which ones are really worth my energy and my effort? Right? Because I think a lot of times we just get lost thinking we have to do all these things and we don't, right?
We
That some things we
we
can
have a
just let
tendency,
go.
yeah, we have a tendency to constantly overwhelm ourselves. We
Why is that? I mean, oh my God,
Yeah,
yes.
I think it's exactly
Yes.
because of this fear, right? The fear that
Mm,
we're running out of time, we don't have enough. We're
hmm.
only going to live once. Like why? Like I need everything, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly why I felt my spiritual study really helped me to feel safe because um when you know that this life is not the end of the world. You always come back again, or life always exists in another form.
yeah, yeah,
You trust you give yourself the grace, the time, the space to choose what your heart truly desires instead of feeling, okay, only going to live once. I need to have a checklist
cram as much in as you
all the
can.
things. Yes. But that's
Yeah,
I felt love really teaches me you should give yourself the time and space. You have all the time in the world, you have all the options. If not in this life, there's always next. So
yeah, and you know what? But there's also in this life, and because this is something I've been working on too with mindfulness and being in the moment. That if you are fully in the moment, you are notice. It's like the world the universe sort of opens up, and it becomes rich, so rich, right? That something as simple as washing your hands can be this huge experience that's just like, wow, it's so cool. And that you normally never pay any attention to because your mind is already off thinking about the next thing you want to do, right? So I think living in the moment also does that. It sort of slows down time and it gives us a richer experience of life that is better than trying to find another thing that's going to bring it to you, right? That it's already here. It's
yeah.
already here. We just need to open to it and be aware of it.
And it takes a lot of practice to
Oh yeah.
be
It's not so
be
easy.
present in that moment. I think
Yeah.
I think our presence is the ultimate power that we have, and
Mm-hmm.
have that ownership of the present moment, owning your presence, right here,
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
It's the most powerful thing you can
Yeah. There's a
give
lot of power
yourself.
in that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I actually, speaking of which, I want to talk a little bit about fear. Um, so obviously fear has a lot to do with how you grow up and what you experience in life. Um, but based on my understanding, there are seven type of fear that basically summarize all the fears in the world. Um, I felt it would be important for me to share this so you can maybe do a little bit analysis what type of fear you tend to have, and those are the things that you really need to pay attention to when you're making decisions. Um,
Because they're limiting you, right? They're holding you back from making a good decision.
so the
Okay.
first area of fear that I've heard is related to self-esteem. So you either feel you're too good, which leads to arrogance, or you feel you're not good enough, which leads to self-deprecation.
Hmm.
So you, if you have those kind of fear, then pay attention because arrogance and self-deprecation are not good. Like it would allow
Yeah.
you
Right.
yourself
Yeah.
greater. Um, yeah, and the second pair of fear that I've know is the fear of having too much and having not enough. So not enough that leads to greed, and having too much leads to self-destruction. So I know this might sound strange, but I know a lot of people who have money issues because they always felt that they don't deserve that. That's
Sure. I think that's very common.
yeah, that's the fear of
Yeah.
structure. You just felt that you have too much. I cannot handle this. I don't want to have this.
Mm,
And all of this is rational, it's fear-based. Another pair of fear I've heard, one is called obviously impatience, and the other one is called my teacher labels it as martyrdom. So basically,
martyrdom.
feel you feel that you are always the victim of some circumstances.
Yeah.
Like you have to sacrifice yourself
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
something that's greater. But eventually, it's a fear of losing control of space or owning your capacity because you know you obviously you're not a victim of the circumstances.
Hmm.
It's what you believe that leads you to believe that you're a victim. And impatience, on the other hand, is a fear of losing control of time. You always felt that time is running out, and you try your best to control time. Um, yeah, and then there is another type of fear that's typical, which is stubbornness.
Stubborn.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's a fear of change.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually something I was thinking of earlier when you were speaking, this fear of change, when you were talking about safety and feeling safe. Because I think so many people feel that safety comes through things staying the same,
Mm-hmm.
right? That we're afraid of change. And if everything just stayed the same, then I would know what to expect,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yet we want things to be better.
Yeah.
They can't be better if they stay the same. So there's really not safety in inertia. There's safety in change.
Absolutely.
Uh,
If there's only one truth in the world that's not changing, that the truth will be the world is ever changing.
the world is always changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you're going to like be safe as possible, you're going to change along with things. And because that's what's happening, right? It makes me think of the Buddhist concept of the river,
Mm-hmm.
right? That like life is like the river, it's the flow, the energy that flows, constantly flows that we're a part of. And if we try to fight the river, right, then it's going to be tough
Yeah.
and it's going to knock you around and you're going to constantly be struggling against it and it's going to take a ton of energy and you're never going to get anywhere,
Mhm.
right? If you're standing and trying to go upstream in a fast flowing river, if you've ever done that, you know what that's like, right? It's like you're losing a fighting battle. And yet that's what life feels like, I think, a lot of times for people, that you're fighting a losing battle. You're trying as hard as you can, man, you're giving it your all, but it keeps pushing you back and back and back. And you're banging you against the rocks every now and then.
Mhm.
And so if it's not working for you, you might stop and think, am I fighting it? Is there a fear here that I'm letting control me and my decision making, that is fighting what's going on, fighting the change, fighting what's real? Because the Buddhist concept is to flow, right? It's just to let go and flow like a leaf on the river. It's just going to move you along with what's happening. And then you can see what you need to see and you can make your choices more clearly. You have energy to do the things in your life you want to do. And it just becomes so much, you're carried through life that way. And you can start to sense that
Hmm.
support, right? This sort of invisible buoyancy that is all around you that's supporting you, and you don't have to work so hard
Hmm.
to get somewhere.
Hmm.
Yeah. And there's safety in that. There's a safety that I think most of us don't even know to look for because we're
Hmm.
so used to just feeling this
Hmm.
close me in and keep me in, one place, and that's what's safe.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's always a good place to start by asking yourself, what is your fear? And yeah, if you're interested, we can have a further discussion around different types of fear.
Oh man, fear is a whole big issue, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. But
Uh,
I think we're probably at a good place to tie things up. What do you think? Is there something else about choice that you wanted to address?
no, I think we already talked about what I think is the best way to make choices. Just
Yeah, I
have
think
the
we did a
love
pretty
for yourself, be aware of all the options available, and then do
Mhm.
it.
And then just do it. Yeah, trust the choices. And you know what? If you made a choice that ends up not working out well, then it's okay.
Mhm.
We always do our best, don't we? I think we always do our best when we're making choices, and we try to, and we work with what we have. And if it doesn't turn out well, then you can look at it objectively. I would say, don't put yourself down for making a bad choice,
Mhm.
right? Don't think, oh man, how could I have been so stupid? Because you weren't. You just didn't see everything you needed to see at the time, or that you could have seen, and it's okay. It's totally okay,
Also,
right?
I
Look,
would
go back
say
and look at it and learn from it,
I think
and
a
try to.
lot of times we have issue with the result because we attach too much to the result. I think there are a lot of
Mm,
potential reasons
absolutely.
talk about you make your effort, but you don't have attachment to the result because when you start to have attachment to a certain
Yeah,
result, you
yeah.
expect that you
And it
see.
goes back to what you said about the future, that we like want to know the future and we want to have that certainty, right? But if we're flowing downstream, we don't know what's ahead. And that's okay. That's okay to not know what's ahead. We can't. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
always
good
safe.
point. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you found anything interesting today or have any comments or um, questions about our topic of choice today or anything else for that matter, please put it in the comments below and like and subscribe because we are posting new videos every week and may not be exactly on the day, but about every week. And we'd love to have you join us for all of our conversations. And we're so blessed to be able to share our thoughts and ideas with you today. Song, you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I feel complete and look forward to our next sessions
Yes.
together.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us on The Sage and the Seeker. Remember, the answers aren't out there, they're within, and every step you take makes a difference. So until next time, be the sage,
Be the seeker, be
be
transformed.
transformed.
Bye.
Bye.